So, what's in store for housing in 2024? Will home prices finally level off? Will interest rates drop from their peak in what was it, October of last year? We're going to look at all of this and more. And what we're going to analyze are things like what's going on with inflation. We're going to talk about the inventory and buyer demand. We're going to talk about the number of transactions. We're going to talk about mortgage rates, recession likelihood, year-over-year price changes, and of course, inflation. Okay. Now, remember, as we look at all of this, we're going to be looking at national trends. Your local real estate market may differ because at the end of the day, real estate is local. Now, let's talk about just macroeconomics for one moment, and specifically, let's talk about inflation. And what we're looking at here is year-over-year shelter changes. And the reason why we're looking at this is shelter, cost of shelter, makes up 44% of the core CPI and 21% of the core PCE. That's significant, right? Because the cost of shelter is a large part of a consumer's budget. You can see here that Core Logic tracks rent as well. And you can see the year-over-year change peaked somewhere around, right before June of last year. I'm sorry, June of 2022, excuse me. But you can see that the shelter is lagging that. And we've kind of hit the peak at this point and now finally are coming down. And you can see that the expectation is that shelter, the reports that will happen in for December, reported January 11th, for January and for February, will be replacing a much higher, much more elevated number. Let me show this to you in a table view. So in December, it was reported at 39, in January, 51, in February, 36. And you can see that it's expected to be reported for the new ones that are replacing these old ones, because it's a 12-month span, 0.1. So it's going to be a much better number as far as inflation, because the cost of shelter has gone down. So what does that all mean? Well, if you look at core PCE year over year, you can see that it's going to trend down, especially as we replace these higher shelter numbers. Now, the market takes odds on what the Fed will do when they will cut. And you can see January 31st coming up here, 7% chance that the Fed will cut rates. Going back here, we're still too high as far as our core PCE number for them to cut rates, because remember, the Fed target rate is 2%. We're just not there yet. So the market believes only a 7% chance. March 20th, only a 68% chance. But you can see here, once we get to May, when they meet in May, 94% chance. Why is that? Well, their May meeting, you can see we're getting darn close to a 2% reading, and that's the Fed's target number. And then, of course, past May, from June onwards, the end of the year, the market is saying that there is a 100% chance that the Fed will cut rates. It's going to rain, baby, but it's going to be in the middle of this year. Now, not only does the market take guesses, but the actual members of the Fed take guesses as well. And I wish I could blow this up a little bit better, but I honestly don't know how to do that. Let's see. I'm just blowing up my screen. Well, you can see these little dots here are each of the 19 Fed members, and they place a dot on where they think the rates will be, the Fed rate will be in each of the given years. So obviously 2023, we're in between 5.5 and 5.25. Now by 2024, the majority of the members believe we're going to be under 5%. 2025 looks like we're going to be under 4%. And in 2026, just barely touching that 3% number there. This is huge because this is the Fed, the ones that actually are making decisions, saying that rates are going to trend down. What does that mean? Well, it's expected that interest rates are going to be lower than where they're at right now. And most experts believe that we're going to see interest rates somewhere between the mid 5s and high 6s. Here's what I believe. If we can get rates under 6%, we are going to see a ton of move up buyers. And the reason is just psychologically, if you've got a 4% interest rate and you want to buy a new home and you're going to get an 8% interest rate, no way, right? I just can't do it. Doesn't matter. And that's what we saw at the end of last year. Now, as rates have tended to come down, we have seen more and more move up buyers decide, you know what, I'm going to put my house on the market. Even though that interest rate's really good, the house isn't good for me anymore. I've outgrown it. I need more bedrooms. I need less bedrooms. I need to downsize and move areas, whatever it might be for the reason of selling a house and getting a new home. It's going to unlock more and more move-up buyers as interest rates come down. And I think the magic number is somewhere around 6%. Psychologically, if you're in the fours, go to 6, okay, it's not too big of a jump. Whereas 4 to 8, it's hard for a lot of people to swallow. As well, we do believe that the 10-year treasury likely is going to come down as well. And the difference between the 10-year treasury and mortgage-backed securities, there's been a big spread, big difference between the two. And I think that's going to come back down a little bit where it will be closer to the historic averages that we've seen, which is, again, a good thing. It means a more normalized market. So we talked about inflation. So inventory is really interesting because we've seen, as you can see on this bar chart here, a decrease in inventory almost year after year after year for over a decade, okay? And what's frustrating about all this is just demographically, we're having more household formations than ever before, right? And a household formation is, a husband and wife split up. There's 2 houses now. That's a household formation. A bunch of roommates split and get their own homes. Those are household formations. Kids move out of the house and start their own, life as an adult. That's a household formation. There are more household formations than completions on homes. So we already have very low inventory just existing. And then future, we have less and less compared to the demand out. This is causing a squeeze where home prices are going up in the face of interest rates going up. So what does this mean? Well, in 2021, if you were going to buy a home and finance $240,000, your mortgage payment would be $1,000, which is, sizable. But if you're making $4,000 a month, you probably say, you know what, I can make this payment. Now, a couple years later, that same home, you need to finance probably $280,000, and the interest rate is more than double. It's 6.625. That's an $1,800 payment versus a $1,000 payment. That's $800 more a month. Now, the media is going to blow this out of proportion. They say, look, this is absolutely unaffordable. It's unaffordable because you would have to increase your income by 80%, and it's not happening. And here's what I would say is the media is probably blowing this out of proportion. Most consumers are trying to do the math a little bit differently. They're saying, look, I had to make $4,000. Well, now I need to make an extra $800. That's a 20% increase. And if you can see here, ADP states that incomes have increased by about 15%. So is home affordability at just a all-time just horrendous situation? Yes, absolutely. Is it as bad as what the media has made up? No. And you can see that by just the demand out there. Now, I believe that home affordability has been a problem for a long, long time in this country. And I believe it's probably, this sounds really negative, probably going to be worse, right? If you can see that just the household formations, we're just not building enough homes. And that's in the face of us losing homes every year to natural disasters, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, or just, deterioration of the building itself. So that said, I do think that inventory is going to remain tight for the foreseeable future. There are still going to be plenty of people who decide to build onto their home or renovate instead of to sell. And with their low interest rates, feel like that's the best option for them. So what do the experts say? Well, most experts are saying somewhere around 4.5 and 5% appreciation nationwide. Some areas you're going to see a lot more than that. Some areas you might even see a little bit of a negative, but nationwide, that's probably a good guess. I do think that we're going to see more inventory just because of that unlock in move up buyers. The problem with move up buyers that you got to think about is that you're going to sell a home, but then you're going to buy a home, right? So you're really you're a net zero at that case. Now, the nice thing is with move up buyers is there's going to be more homes on the market, so you have more options, but obviously more competition, more people consuming that inventory. So I think the months of inventory, which is what we track, I think the months of inventory are probably going to stay relatively the same, but you're going to have more transactions. So in conclusion, I think that home prices aren't coming down, but hopefully we're not going to see the dramatic increases that we've seen in the recent past. That said, interest rates will come down, which should alleviate some of that home affordability issue that we've had before. Now, things to look out for, I would say look out for insurance. There are some states like my home state of California, Florida, and other places where insurance is becoming a big topic. A lot of companies who have left those states altogether and aren't issuing new policies. So that's something to look at. As far as the home affordability piece goes, we will see more inventory. We will see interest rates come down somewhere in the mid 5s to mid 6s. And again, if we get below that 6% rate, I do believe that we will see more and more move up buyers and inventory will increase. Again, buyer activity will increase as well, though. And as much as you should be a student of the market, the most important thing, in my opinion, is to make sure that the fundamentals make sense for you. Whether you're buying an investment property or your first home, make sure that it makes sense for whatever your plans are. Make sure that it's long-term, somewhere around 5 to 10 years, and make sure that the payments are affordable, whether that's because you want to have a tenant pay that or because you need to make the payments yourself. Make sure that your job is secure and make sure that you have some sort of rainy day fund, you have reserves. If all of that is in place, then buying in any market should make sense for the most case. So anyways, reach out to me if you got any questions at all. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you. Until next time.